Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva,
Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
and welcome to the snobOS show, the show for Apple snobs where we talk all things Apple and then some. We want to thank you for coming back for another week of listening to our podcast. And we want to thank you for your continued support. If you want to get a little bit of extra content, exclusive content, live show capability, you can head on over to patreon.com/snobOScast to get all of the details. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this show's week. The show this week, we are going to start off with the lowdown where we talk all things Apple. So last week we talked a little bit about how Apple has kind of seemed to be above some of the tech layoff fray, and Apple hasn't done any huge layoffs similar to your Facebooks or Microsofts or Amazon or some of the other companies that have done these massive layoffs. And we were, talking about what was that attributed to? Did Apple just kind of, plan ahead, or they have reserves or things that aren't really impacted? Well, it appears, based on this article that I found on 9 to 5 Mac, that Apple seems to be cracking down on remote work by tracking employee attendance via badge swipes. So Apple has this the hybrid work attendance policy. They took away a lot of the pandemic stipulations where you had to have a negative COVID test and all those things. So now, people are back in the office for 2 to 3 days a week, depending on your team dynamic, your role, or what have you. But it's been said that Apple is giving employees, they're calling them escalating warnings, that if you don't meet your in-person requirements, that you could be terminated from your role if you aren't coming in on the required days. Now, I say all this to say, for some of the companies that I know of, that I've heard of, they are trying to, I guess, force some attrition so that they don't have to go into layoffs. So
Mm-hmm.
by maybe being a bit more stringent on your attendance policy, and just the return to work altogether, because most people thought that this was a new way of life. This is what some companies told people. Yeah, we're work from home. Everybody's doing great. There's no need to come back into the office. And now you got inflation, you have, banks failing, all these things. And people are like, okay, we got to figure out how to save some money. So on the front, this kind of looks like a way for Apple to be able to reduce their headcount, because again, for most companies, headcount is the biggest expense, and the biggest expense that they can manipulate. You have building space and equipment, that types of things, that you're not going to really get a huge reduction in cost from that. So employee headcount is the biggest type of way you can cut down on your budget. And it seems like some of these, it appears to be implied that by forcing this policy and people not adhering to it, may lead to some attrition by Apple. So any thoughts from you on this, or anything you're seeing kind of in the work environment that kind of allude to this type of effort?
Well, I think with Apple, post quote unquote post COVID, I think we've always knew that Apple wanted people back into the office. Apple employees talked about it. They kind of not protested. They kind of commented in internal channels, and have voiced their disagreements with going back to work. But I think we all kind of knew eventually Apple's going to be like, all right, come back into the office. I don't know 100% that if Apple has said this is a way to stave off layoffs, but according to the story, like you mentioned in 9 to 5 Mac, it flat out says within some organizations at Apple, employees are being told that failure to comply could result in termination, not could result in pay decrease, not could result in probation, not could result in realignment or whatever they want to say, could result in termination, right?
Yeah.
So for them to make that quick leap from, hey, we want y'all to come back into work, to, hey, y'all need to come back into work, to, if you don't come back into work, you're fired.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty quick move that I mean, you could make an argument that, all right, well, we're going to, like you said, attrition. Somebody be like, well, look, I really like working from home, but I really like working for Apple, but I really like working from home. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess I'm going to have to choose, and I'm going to have to choose someplace else that will allow me to work from home. I think it's not necessarily a win-win. I don't want to look at it like that for Apple, but they're like, cool, this way we can shave off some numbers, but I don't know if enough people would say, I'm gonna leave Apple, for it to be have that much of an effect for them to actually say, oh, we had 10,000 people say we're leaving Apple. That should be enough to cover us until, the iPhone 15 comes out and everybody loves us again, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if that's enough, right? But I mean, you might as well do it now. And this be the excuse that we want y'all to come
Right.
back into work. If you don't want to come back into work, into the office rather, then we got to figure something out, right?
Yeah.
What I was going to say was, and I added this story in a minute, just a second. We were talking about Apple not laying people off. One of the things I thought you were going to mention was the fact that, one of the ways Gizmodo mentioned that Apple is staving layoffs is by delaying products. One of the big things everybody and their mama is talking about is AI and Chat GPT and Open AI and all these things. And the Gizmodo story says that, hey, Apple's not getting into AI, and they are delaying some other products like this Apple VR headset. Even though last week we kind of mentioned that the engineers was kind of pushing for the product to come out versus the designers are kind of like, no. Well, a third party enters the fray, which is layoffs. And Apple, there could be Apple saying, hey, we either delay some of these products to save the costs associated in order to not lay off, like, for instance, the Apple VR headset and a planned HomePod with a built in screen.
Oh man, that's one of my predictions. Come on.
Yep, yep. They're delaying stuff like that to stave off layoffs. So that, I would, if I'd had to pick between Apple trying to card people, whether or
Mm-hmm.
not they're coming back into the office, or them delaying products for layoffs, I would choose the former. Simply because it's like, well, the AR VR headset, they really don't know what they want to do right now. And nobody really cares about HomePod like that. So we can
Mm-hmm.
push those things off if that means we can keep the employees. So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't seen this. It's very interesting. I think it's weird, not necessarily weird, but companies seem to be trying to get creative with the ways that they are trying to reduce, costs, whether it be, forcing people back into work after they've told them that they could, be remote,
uh-huh,
indefinitely, to
uh-huh.
now this badge swiping thing, now to, reduction in products being released. So it's interesting to see how this is going to play out, because I know, specifically for some companies, they were hoping with some of the return to work policies that people would say, yeah, I don't want to do this, so I'm just going to find another job. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, some companies were really hoping that that was going to be the case, and now that is not, in some instances, not as much attrition as they thought. They're having to go with different options.
Yeah.
So it Based on that, this next story is interesting because it is talking about a product that we haven't heard that much about in a really long time. For a minute, it was pretty hot and heavy, and then next thing you know, it kind of just drops off. So, this is about the Apple Car. So apparently, they're getting more people as test drivers, but still not a lot as known about this project being the Apple Car. So I think what they're calling it, Project Titan.
It's been
Uh,
that name for a long time.
right.
We thought that was a bus or some sort of commuter people mover through up
Hmm.
from the different Apple campuses or whatever. That's what we
Right.
thought it was, but then turned into be an Apple car, and then we thought it was going to be the head unit for
Hmm.
autonomous cars that they were going to license to Hyundai and all these other people.
Kia.
So
Yeah.
yeah, nobody knows now.
Yeah. But what is being said now is that there's a report that shows that Apple has added some more test drivers. So it would appear that the whole Apple Car, program, initiative, whatever you want to call it, is moving forward as they are, getting people to come out and get in the vehicles and start to test drive them or be testers to drive them. So it'll be interesting to see, based on the story we just talked about them, kind of rolling back some of their products, how this is going to affect what they're doing with this Project Titan slash Apple Card now that there is a report out there that they are, getting more people involved in the process.
Which I'm surprised in the story it does mention that. Um, let me find it real quick. Um, there are self-driving cars powered by Apple currently on the streets of California. I'm surprised that nobody, no website, no blog, no Apple Watch newsletter has taken a good picture or taken any sort of pictures of these Apple cars. Now, I'm not saying they have the full finished product in production and they just got some duct tape on it or anything like that, but I haven't seen any pictures of any cars that anybody has said this has Apple autonomous technology in it.
Mm,
And I could be wrong, but I find that kind of weird and strange that, in all the snooping that some of these technology websites do,
right.
we know that people are testing,
Hmm.
we know that there are drivers. We know that there are drivers testing the Apple car, but there's no pictures. All the pictures that we've seen have been what do you call those rend-
Renderings.
renderings. I was gonna say renditions. There
Well,
have
I
been no.
will.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say a little kind of in the huddle type thing. A lot of times, I'm not specifically speaking on any company, vehicle type, or anything like that. But in my experience, or things that I've seen, is that there are ways to get around this by having the guts of the technology inside a regular looking vehicle
Hmm.
where you're testing out maybe some of the software, where you're maybe testing out some of the cameras or lenses that you wouldn't necessarily know is autonomous adjacent or autonomous leaning because they are inside of existing vehicles that look like things that are already out there. Or in some instances, I've seen some things where it's like just a literal is very rudimentary, like door, roof, hood,
Hmm.
front, back. It doesn't look like anything but, the most generic, think of a kid drawing something very
Hmm.
rudimentary and you don't know on the inside, the guts of it, who the guts of it belong to.
But even in that, right? Waymo, Cruise,
Hmm.
Neuro, some of these other autonomous car manufacturers, these tech journalists are pretty good at finding even those cars, even though they just look like regular cars, and
Mm-hmm.
they've got the Waymo or the Cruise and the Neuro junk on top of it, right? The
Mm-hmm.
cameras, the LiDAR, whatever the case may be, radar, whatever it is. I've seen tech blogs be like, look, this technology is currently been in use by Waymo on this car on this road. I ain't seen none of them say this Toyota Corolla has Apple technology sitting on top of it, and this is what Apple's using to test their new Apple Car autonomous technology. I just still kind of find that weird, right? But
Yeah.
it could just be me.
Yeah. I'm interested to see if, a lot of car companies have proving grounds where they do a lot of the testing and
Maybe,
it's kind
maybe.
of inside of, the car or the company complex that, that's where they're doing most of their testing before it's ready for the road. And this may be that they aren't ready for on the road yet, because I believe in the article it says that oh no, so they
Yeah,
did do
that's
the
what I'm
license. They
saying.
did do the license, yeah.
Apple.
I was thinking that they hadn't done the autonomous program in
Yeah,
California.
yeah. There's this story. It says Apple reported a single collision since February 13th, 2023, but the car wasn't driving itself when it happened. And they go into
Mhm.
detail, talk about what happened with the car. But even then, they just mentioned the car. There's no picture. There's no, anything like that. So hats off to Apple, regardless of whatever they're trying to do with this car, they've been able to keep it under wraps. And all we
Yeah.
know is names and dates.
Yep. Yepity yep yep. All right. The final thing in the lowdown this week, a release candidate is now out for iOS 16.4, iPadOS 16.4, watchOS 9.4, Ventura 13.3, and tvOS 16.4, with the expectation that the final version is going to be released sometime next week. So this release candidate is the version that is typically closest to what the actual released version is going to look like. This is now available to developers, and typically at this point, this is kind of like the gold source version, where this is the likely, that's why it's called a release candidate. This is the likely version that will be pushed out to all devices unless something catastrophic happens. But at this point, it's pretty locked in for the testing, the technology. It's a pretty locked in version that's almost ready to ship out the door. But they're giving developers one last crack at it to kind of see what's going on and, give it a final test for not only their apps, but, just how it works overall once you get some robust testing outside of the controlled environment of the company that's building it.
Yeah, and I don't see anything major in 16.4 either, according to this story. One of the things, Apple is also removing NFC support from car keys feature, leaving ultra wideband technology as the only way for people to lock, unlock, and start their cars in the future. I don't know if that's going to limit Apple or open the door for broader, better technology, because it seems like NFC support is like the standard, air quotes, standard way to unlock things.
Mm.
So we'll see. We'll have to see how that works. Specifically of getting more third party apps and services to adopt the car keys. Well, third party companies like other car manufacturers to support the car keys feature. Only other one I see is the shared iCloud library to detect duplicates, duplicate photos, and then like voice isolation. So if you're out in public, the phone is going to work a little bit harder to isolate your voice and drown out background noise to make it easier on phone calls. And that probably be the best feature, because you won't need a phone that's only compatible with iOS 16. I think 15.7.3 is the latest iOS version for iOS 15 devices, which right now is the iPhone 7. No, yeah, iPhone 7. I want to say the iPad Mini 2 and the iPad Air 2, I think. I could be wrong, but those are some of the current devices that don't support iOS 16. So if you got one of the older devices, you'll still be able to take advantage of the voice isolation technology. And that's all I see really in iOS 16.4.
Yeah, it's one of those. I thought it was in this particular story, but I'm trying to go back and find it. There was a mention of in the new software that people were seeing mentions of new some technology related to maybe a new AirPod Pro release and some new Beats connections. I thought that that was in this particular story, and I'm trying to go back to where I thought I saw it, but none of the places seem to have it now. But there was a couple of stories that I saw that said it appeared as if there were some people were noticing that there's some code in there related to maybe some new AirPod Pros and new Beats.
If I was Apple, I would do that on purpose because a couple of lines of code is not going to kill me. I would put a couple of lines of code in Apple's making a new tablecloth. And Apple is there's some couple of lines in code about Apple making house paint and brick siding and a new toilet just to get some of these tech journalists stop all that snooping,
Put them
which
in
I
their
mean,
place a little bit.
which is impossible. But
Yeah.
I'd play with them a little bit, throw them
Yep.
off the center, throw them a fake scent, get them off the track a little bit.
Right. Well, that is going to wrap up the lowdown. Let's head on over to second string where we talk all other tech. First up is the biggie in the tech world this week. Currently, well, maybe we're recording now at it's about going on 7. The hearings are likely over, but TikTok has come to Congress. And they are currently debating banning TikTok. So the CEO of TikTok was questioned, similar to some of the other, um, you know, ways that the government has pulled in some of these other tech companies, and really asking them some hard hitting questions. And if you can't tell, there's a little bit
Oh
of
my God, these
sarcasm in my
dudes.
voice. It's one of those things where it's it's funny because they brought the CEO of TikTok, and they're gonna take him down and really show the American people that this guy's bad. And some of these questions that they're asking, what is it? One of the representatives asked, does it have access to Wi-Fi? What do you think, friend? If you connect it to Wi-Fi, then kind of, yeah. Some of the questions from our elected representatives as it goes to these types of conversations, it really just grates my gears, because if you're going to have try and take down somebody, especially a Chinese company, where it's all about they're against us, they're bad for us, they hate us, those type of things, you would think that you would be a bit more informed
Mm-hmm.
and ask intelligent questions. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have people who,
Legitimate concerns.
yeah, people who that don't have legitimate concerns, or they don't, or not even that they don't have people on their staff to say, hey, ask these questions. A lot of times I think it's just a show, and their staffers are like, talk about this, ask about this, but when they get their 5 minutes to grill the person, all of reason goes out the window, and they think they're doing these gotchas on these extremely smart and wealthy people, and it's just they just look like idiots. And it's just like, wow, this is really, it's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate and embarrassing.
Yeah, and The Verge does a good job. Excuse me. The Verge does a good job of kind of doing a timeline on like some poignant points in the hearings. You know, like Nica mentioned, some of these things are just silly to where some people are asking some, legitimate questions. For instance, there's one, I don't know who the senator is who said, or who's the person talking. Somebody mentions they came back from a break or recess with a series of questions about why TikTok hasn't removed more content about drugs, including people selling drugs, and a Wall Street Journal article. Somebody must have referenced a
Mhm.
Wall Street Journal article about adult content showing up in children's feeds. Chu, who's the CEO of TikTok, says that no company can moderate perfectly, but that's pretty much all he had to add. Instead of being more reassuring, he was just kind of like, what are we gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Which is not helping his case.
But I think a lot of times I saw someone post on Twitter, it's like you're going after this company when you have US companies who have access to all of our data, who, have the monopoly. I mean, they kind of like did like a, well, you have a company that does this to this and this to that. And it's like one of those things where I didn't realize, because I'm not on TikTok. I have a TikTok, but I'm not on it. But TikTok is not even available as an app in China. It's available here in the US. And so when
It's just
the
another name.
yeah,
I
when
forget the.
the
Yeah,
is
go
it
ahead.
is it ByteDance? I don't know. Anyway, so the CEO was saying how he did like a video as a precursor to his presence on the hill or whatever you call it. And he kind of, shaded the US a bit, because he's like, we have 150 million US users, and basically alluding to the fact that we have more users on this app than you had that voted in your last election. So it's, those type of things that says these people are volunteering to be on this app. We're not forcing them to be on there. They're
Mm-hmm.
uploading the content. It's
Mm-hmm.
like we're just kind of a place where it all goes. And I get it. And, we talked about it a little bit last week where, people have an intent for an app. And then it kind of shifts
The
based
people
on
decide
the
how.
people
Yeah.
decide how it's used. Now,
Mm-hmm.
should, things be in place? I obviously should privacy be considered? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you have 150 million US people uploading content to this site. And I find it also strange how Republicans and Democrats have kind of united in this, when it actually started with, the former guy trying to
Uh huh.
get it canceled because of his beef with China. And it's just really strange to me that, Biden has kind of jumped on board with this.
So, a couple things. The the problem with TikTok, and they just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And what I mean by that is sometimes American citizens have to be protected from themselves.
Yes.
What I mean by that is we have history, documented history of how social media has been able to influence people as it relates to policy in the United States, specifically as it relates to elections, specifically as it relates to Donald Trump becoming president. The whole Cambridge Analytica thing with Facebook. To give you a quick refresher, the reason why a lot of people attributed Trump, not a lot of the reason, but Cambridge Analytica was able to use data gathered by, given to it by Facebook. They were able to use that data to actually influence people's thoughts as it related to the Trump presidency.
Mm.
And the way they did that was by coming up with these dumb little games that ask people a bunch of questions that separate.
Under the guise of I'm going to show you which Sex and the City character
You're
you
right,
are.
right. But in asking some of those questions, they were able to create profiles, and Cambridge Analytica used those profiles, gave them over to, we're just going to say Russia because that's who it was. And they were able to use that to influence our thoughts as it relates to social media. Because again, anything we see on the internet is true, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here comes TikTok with all this love for the beloved social media app, trendy right now, right? Everybody's talking about TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and them are trying to beat TikTok. Everybody else fighting against how we all love TikTok, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, because rightfully so, now Biden comes along, after Trump kind of half-heartedly wanted to ban TikTok, but not really,
Not really.
right. Here comes Biden is actually like, hey, we don't want to make the same mistake
Big
twice.
credibility to what Trump started.
Right, right, right. We've got history, yada, yada, yada. So now TikTok is like, no, no, no. Everybody loves us. Everybody uploads their own content. Sure, we could do better to moderate the content. Sure, we could do better to protect people, but it's people uploading their own content. So there's only so much we can do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which again, in some cases is unfair to them, but also China is in the mix. What involvement they have, what involvement they don't. America and United States, America and United States, United States and China have this strained relationship that's only getting
Right.
more strained. And if I was China and I knew that Americans love the internet and they love social media and they upload all this data
Mm-hmm.
that we can just use, that we
Mm-hmm.
can get our hands on and figure out how to use to our advantage. If I was China, run me that data.
Mm-hmm.
Run it. Give it to me. TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
you got it. ByteDance is the parent company to TikTok. ByteDance has a China address. We are a communist country. Give me the data. Let me figure out what I'm gonna do with it, right? So again, America's like, all right, we know we got to protect the American
We
people
gotta
from
lock it down some sort of way.
we got to protect it from their own stupidity.
Right.
Again, what's being lost in this is not what's being lost. What's overshadowing that is these politicians trying to get their rocks off at these congressional hearings without having all the information. And the TikTok CEO is doing his best to explain how it works, but he can't. He
They don't have the
can't.
capacity to understand
Right.
some of this.
Right. And TikTok, the CEO, he cannot definitively say that if China comes and asks him for the data, he's going to say, no, you can't have it. He
Mm-hmm.
can't say that.
Yeah.
He can't. So because he can't say that, here comes the circus.
Yeah.
Right. Which is unfair to TikTok. But at the same time, it's like, Americans we love social media. So we're going to give you the data. We're going to give it to you. So we got to figure out how to not do that.
Right. And it's very interesting. I think I saw a clip from the CEO. He was saying, they have 7,000, US workers, that, it's stored on American servers.
Mhm.
It's, he kind of rattled off basically saying that, yes, we are a Chinese based company. Our parent company is based in China, but all of your data is stored here in the US. That I get. But at the same time, they still have access to that data as a subsidiary of a larger Chinese company. So
And it's
it's one of
not,
those things.
yeah. I was going to say, and it's not a simple, I kind of oversimplified China saying, let
Right.
me see the data, right?
Right.
There is a program called Project Texas that TikTok is trying to use to appease the American politicians and the people who have these concerns by saying just that. The data is going to stay over in the United States. There's going to be this big, strong wall between Americans' data that are on TikTok and any other country, right? But there are still some, even in the fine details of that, because TikTok is like, look, we want to work with y'all. We want to do whatever we can do. We don't think forcing a ban on TikTok is going to help. We don't think just selling the company to an American company, to America, is not going to help. It's not going to change how people use it. It's not going to change anything. As a matter of fact, if you ban it, I think that's why he rattled off all those things.
Mm.
These people are not going to lose. They're going to lose their jobs. I'm paraphrasing. They're going to lose their
Yeah.
jobs, and you're going to lose TikTok, right?
And
So let's
content creators make a lot of money on this.
Right. So let's come up with an in between that can appease both parties. And this whole Project Texas, you have to look it up. I don't have the
Mm-hmm.
details on it right now. If you look it up, it kind of explains how this this middle ground will work, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even still with that, there are some terminology to where, again, the company's based in China and there's some backdoor, back key, back channel. You watch all those movies and the software's ironclad, but the right hacker has the right backdoor access to be able to unlock it. And they sitting there on the computer cracking the code.
Mm-hmm.
China kind of has that backdoor back end way to where if they wanted to, they could get some of that data because they have been proven to have had access or had been in control or been in what's it called? Been in they have the data when they said they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
There's been story. I think we've even talked about it on this show before, to where TikTok was like, "No, we ain't using that data. We ain't looking at it." And the story comes out, yeah, you actually was.
You know,
So
I mean, it's 150 million US users, and you have to put your phone number, your email, your birthday for verification. I mean, obviously,
eh,
they own this data, and
right,
obviously, they're going to do with it what they please. And certain regulations they don't necessarily have to, I guess, apply
right,
because they are a foreign, country owned, company.
right. And we could be messing all this up, but again, I don't believe that. I think again with the misinformation and the
Hmm.
sheer ignorance and stupidity of some of the people trying to, are proponents of the ban. I don't believe that China is going to ask for this data so they can get social security numbers, so they can get phone numbers, so they
Right.
can get emails, so they can get addresses and things of that nature, or bank accounts or any of that, right? What I think TikTok would do, or what China would do trying to get access to this data, would be like, all right, how can we influence sentiment in our favor?
Because
And
they are a dictatorship. Well,
right,
communist country. Yeah.
right. So whatever we can do to influence sentiment, China
Hmm.
sentiment in the United States, that's what we're going to use the data for. So what
Yeah.
they'll do is similar to how Cambridge and Analytica, they created profiles. What do people think about certain subjects, and
And how can we change their mind?
how can we change their minds? So
Yeah.
they'll put out videos, they'll do whatever the case may be to kind of sway that opinion
The
in their
perception that
or
Americans have
perception,
of China. Yeah.
whatever, in their favor. And I think that's the extent of it. But even still, it's like that'll work because Americans, we love social media and we believe everything we see. You
And
know,
honestly, we're kind of stupid.
I was trying not to say that, but yes.
But I mean, we've proven it over and over again,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So yeah, so it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because I don't believe banning it or selling it to a different company is really going to have that much effect. What effect it will have if they are successful to get it banned or to get it sold to another company is going to be political gain. They're going to be able to say, I asked this question or I did this to help get it out of here to protect us from the mean Chinese people who are trying to overtake us. And, they'll be able to use that as fodder and propaganda to get reelected. And
All
to
right.
me, that's what this whole thing is for. It's not about protect. To me, it does. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think it's about protecting the American people. I don't
Uh-huh.
think it's about preserving, the data of American citizens or protecting children from these challenges and all those things. I think it's just political fodder, political propaganda that they can get to use to stay in their positions, to get more money from lobbies, to stay in power. To me, that's what this whole show and, quite frankly, farce is about.
The American political system.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just wrapped up in this. Oh, because I looking at, this, we'll put the link in the show notes, The Verge. They have this one guy. Oh, he's from Georgia. Ugh. Um, and he has like this image behind him, deadly TikTok challenges. And he
Right.
has like pictures of kids and doing these all things. We gotta protect the children, but you don't want to, give them free lunch or breakfast. You don't want to give them universal health care. You don't want to do all of these things to
Yeah.
help the actual children, but you have this big poster about deadly TikTok challenges. So, yeah, to me,
it's a
I could
little
be wrong, but I don't think I am.
it's a little hypocritical.
Yeah, very much so. All right. So that is going to wrap it up for TikTok. Keep your eyes and ears open. If there are any, I guess, new changes that wow us, we'll definitely be sure to bring it back. So up next, more doom and gloom. We've talked about it before on this show several times, actually, as it relates to the tech industry. We talked about recession, layoffs. Well, more layoffs were recently announced. We kind of alluded to it in the lowdown when we talked about what some of the things that Apple have been doing. But these particular companies, they are straight to it, and they're laying off people. Accenture, they're cutting 19,000 jobs. Amazon is laying off an additional 9,000. And even Indeed, the hiring site, is laying off 2,200 people. So it's more of the same, unfortunately. And it's one of those things where, kind of where do we go from here? Or I was trying to like, let's find some stories that are like positive and uplifting this week. And then, you go on, to the tech site and it's just bam, 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 layoff, 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 just really hitting you in the face. And it's just, a sign, unfortunately, of the times where all these layoffs are happening, but these companies are still making billion-dollar profits.
Yep. Yep. It is. I mean, you kind of hit. It's kind of sad, that these companies just decide, all right, what's the lowest common denominator?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Employees, let's play with their lives, let's play with their futures. But when it comes to hire them, when it comes to build company culture, it's all, we're a family
Mm-hmm.
and loyalty and teamwork, all those good things, It's just, it is, I mean, it's business.
Yeah.
Businesses are in business to make money and they don't want to lose money. I get it. We just have to accept it. But again, hopefully this shows the American people or just people
In
looking
general.
to make better lives for themselves by working for these companies to better understand that this is a agreement
Mm-hmm.
between the company and the employer and you, the employee. You're trading time for money.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope these people looking to work for these companies are not looking at these companies like, oh, they're going to change my life, and oh, I'm going to work up the ranks and become this influential, important person at this company, and and build teams and make awesome things and do awesome things, and then I'll retire a hero of this company.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping more employees, people looking to work at these companies, are like, look, I'm just trading my time for a paycheck.
Yes.
And until something better comes on, I'm going to be here. If something does better come along, I'm out. If nothing better comes on, I'm going to know in the back of my mind that anytime I could be
Literally
out.
anytime. Yeah. They could say, you know what, thank you for your service. Goodbye.
Right,
And,
right.
there you are. So it's one of those things where, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Because what this to me is proving is that something we've all known the whole time, but it appears to be even more prevalent now
Mm-hmm.
with the sheer numbers and
Mm-hmm.
the velocity that these
Mm-hmm.
companies who we know made a lot of money, they touted how much money they made, but that still
Right.
doesn't change the fact that they are like, well, we made a lot of money, but we want to make a lot more money. So we're going to do whatever we need to do to make our shareholders happy and make us even more rich, even though we're already super rich from the jump. So, yeah. So it's one of those things where, you know, plan ahead and prepare as much as you can, because literally at any given day, it could be a wrap.
Yep, play the game. They are playing a game with you. So
Yep.
play the game back. Whatever that means. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how that translates to, where you work, what you do, but just know that you are a number. So
Yep.
act accordingly.
Absolutely. Next up, it appears as if Facebook and Instagram are getting on the Elon train as it relates to paid verifications. Facebook and Instagram users in the United States will soon be able to get their blue check by paying for it. So on Friday, Meta began testing the pay verification option for at a start, I'm assuming US users for those two social media apps, Facebook and Instagram. Um, Reading from this article on CNN, they first started testing this back in February in Australia and New Zealand. And it looks like it is going to start to roll out with it's called a Meta Verified, starting at $11.99 a month on the web and a $14.99 a month on the mobile app. So if you just want to, I don't know how this is going to work. Maybe if I read down a little bit further, I'll see. But I guess when you're using it on the web, you'll have a check. But if you log in on the app, you won't, because there are different fees for the different tiers, which is really interesting. But I digress. But they're saying additional perks for your coveted blue check is that you get extra protection from impersonation, which I think all accounts should have that, and direct access to customer support, which I think all accounts should have that. So yeah, so now you can pay to get you a blue check on the Meta apps, just like you can over on Twitter.
Yep. Like you mentioned, security should not be a premium feature.
Mm-hmm.
It should be built in to the platform as a right, not a privilege to be secure. But having said that, I'm surprised it took this long for social media platforms to decide, hey, we need to be making money off of these users. I don't know why it took them so long. Maybe because they, not sold, they have provided these services for free. And of course, if you're trying to run a business, like I mentioned before, you're not just starting a social media platform because we want users to share and generate content that
Cultivate
changes.
community.
No, they don't care
Yeah.
about it. They don't care about that. They're trying to get paid. You start a
They
business,
want your money.
they want your money. So I'm surprised it took this long for all these companies: Twitter, Meta, Instagram, LinkedIn, all these platforms to figure out we need to start charging these users for this platform. And I'm surprised it took this long, but I'm equally as surprised as to how they're deciding to do that. They are playing on our need to feel important by
Mhm.
selling this exclusivity, i.e., the verified accounts, which they say is for protecting your account, which they say is for making it less susceptible to making the platform less susceptible to fake accounts. They can say that all day long.
Right.
We know that they are playing on our need to feel relevant by selling this exclusivity, i.e., this check mark. And it's up to us to fall for it or not. You know, we shall
Americans are
see.
very vain.
Hmm.
And this plays
Yep.
directly into the vanity. I'm self important. I have a blue check. Even though you're paying for it, you're not really there. It's not like these companies are saying you are important. You're paying for it. But at the end of the day, people are all about the aesthetic. So it's like it appears as if I am, some big to do, even though you just paid $15 for it.
And even, back when it was legitimately for I am a celebrity, I don't want
Mm,
nobody to fake my account. So this
mhm,
check tells you that this is the real person talking.
mhm.
Even that, some of these celebrities is like, if I don't have it, then I'm not as important as I think it. I'm not as important
Mhm.
as I want people to think I am.
Right.
So I need
Because you
that
have your
to.
A-listers, your B-listers, your reality stars,
Hmm.
all the self-important grandization,
And
all of those things. Yeah.
right, and yeah, you may be a celebrity, but really ain't nobody trying to fake your account. You
Nobody's. Yeah.
people, but I mean, it does happen, and people are getting swindled by it. But I don't think this verified is going to stop people from trying to swindle, using your likeness or whatever the case may be, because there are I've got tons of aunts and uncles on Facebook who have 5 and 6, 7 different accounts because somebody is trying to impersonate them. And
Mm.
I love my family, but they ain't nobody. That comes off weird. I know it does, but come on, relax with the
Yeah.
I need this in order to somebody not to fake my account, because I'm
Yeah.
concerned about somebody getting swindled because they think they're talking to Beyonce, but they not. They know they ain't
N-
talking to Beyonce.
Nobody's not trying to swindle. Nobody's trying to impersonate you. They aren't. They
Right.
really aren't. So yeah, so be on the lookout for that if you're in the market to pay Facebook and Instagram this money to get you a self-important blue check. Good luck with that. That is going to wrap it up for second string. We're going to head on into For the Culture, where we talk about things that are culturally relevant to us, popular, out in the Twitter and social media streets, or just stuff we want to talk about. So, kind of keeping in line with some of the conversation that we've had on the show this week as it relates to employees, wanting to be like family until it's time to let you go because they need to make more money. This popped up on my Twitter feed from TikTok yesterday. So there is this young woman who is a beauty influencer,
Mm-hmm.
but she's also an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody was hating from outside the club because they couldn't get in.
Mm-hmm.
And a partner, someone from a different firm, reached out to her firm and said, "Hey, do you know you have an employee who has all these followers on TikTok? She's really popular. So I don't know how she's able to continue to do her job as a lawyer
Mm-hmm.
when she has such a huge following. You may want to look into that." So after this was reported by a competing firm to her
Mm.
firm, the partner called her in and said, "Hey, what's going on? Is this what's, doing?" And she's like, "Yeah, I have it's, she's like, it's a line item in my resume." She's like, "People know that I am being a beauty influencer." She was forced to resign because they said that she couldn't do it because essentially this company wanted to own all of her time. So even though, her work was still getting done, no issues there. The company wouldn't have even known unless somebody, snitched, that she was doing this. And I don't even know if you call it snitching because everybody has social media. So it's one of those things where she was forced to resign from her job. She did say in the TikTok that she does brand deals, and she was like, that's kind of like a part of her training as a lawyer to be able to negotiate deals and those types of things. And I want to say that she also said that there was something either in her contract or around her contract about
Moonlighting.
taking, yeah, moonlighting.
Mm-hmm.
But most people would assume, but I guess that's probably the difference with the legal moonlighting, meaning you're not working for another law firm, not doing something for yourself
Right.
in this space, in a completely different space than, what your corporate job is. So
What?
it's one.
Go ahead.
No, I was pretty much wrapped up.
So the peculiar situation with this is, so I personal when I worked as a company, worked when I was getting hired for a company, they knew I had a social media following,
Hmm.
and they also knew that I did IT consultancy on the side.
Hmm.
So they straight up asked me. They were like, "Yo, we don't know if this qualifies or not as, I forget the term, no compete or something. I forget what it called, but
Hmm.
whatever. I had to sign a document, long
Hmm.
story short, that said what I do on social media and what I do in my side hustle does not have anything to do with this company, this job, these my duties and responsibilities. I had to sign that, right?
Hmm.
The problem with this young lady is when she got hired, she mentioned that she does beauty stuff. When the interviews, according to what she said, I'll only have one side of the story. She says in the interviews she made it known that she was a beauty influencer, yada yada yada. But whether it was her, whether it was the company or her, nobody brought up to sign this document. I know it's a legal thing. I can't for the life of me remember what it is.
A non-compete clause?
I don't know what that. I don't know what
Something.
that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay.
But what should have happened in this case, and the problem with the brands, because she mentioned the brands, what I think was the concern for the company was that some of the brands that was paying her through sponsorships, whatever ads, whatever they was doing for her on the side, maybe some of the brands that this law firm may be representing in the future, or maybe some of the other they may have to
So the potential
oppose
for, yeah, so potential people that she's working with could have some conflict,
whatever.
even though they haven't had any conflict.
Right.
It's the potential.
Right. And since they didn't sign that document
Sounds like
prior
they
to
were
her getting
slacking.
hired, something fell through. So I don't know, I don't know, maybe the company buckled, which I think what happened was the company was embarrassed
Mm.
and save face. They was like, we got to let you go, girl.
Hmm.
Not because we love you, not because we love the work you were doing, not because we trust that you was going to be able to, uh, um,
Separate the two.
yes, compartmentalize
Yeah.
and not have a conflict. We trust you. Not that we don't trust you. We got to save face,
Hmm.
and it just so happens that she just got caught up. Again, I think the issue with this was either she didn't make it known enough that this is what I do to sign that document, or the company didn't think it was that important at the time. They should have signed that document
I think
because
it's the latter. I think they
yeah,
probably saw beauty influence, like, oh yeah, whatever. It's not a big deal. And then when a competing firm came and said, she got a lot of followers,
right,
she has a lot of influence. And
right,
honestly, it seems like it's the failure on her firm. Because if she mentioned it, it's in
right.
her
They should
resume,
have
it
did her
was
due
brought up.
diligence.
They should
Right,
have done their due diligence.
right.
But now she is,
Now all of a sudden it's important now.
now it's important. And now
Right.
she, had to, resign from her job.
Yeah. Yeah. True. But there should have been that either. And maybe at the time of getting hired, it wasn't that important to her, and then it just blew up, right?
Yeah.
But there's a document specifically that says, "Hey, you doing this stuff on the side? Make sure it ain't got nothing to do with what you do not between the hours of 9 to 5, right?"
Hmm.
And because that document ain't there, she ain't got no recourse, which sucks. But and again, like you mentioned, I totally believe the company was like, ah, we gotta let
And
you
the
go,
fact
girl.
that and the fact that a competing firm brought it to their attention.
Right,
Now,
right.
had they sussed this out, or someone internally, if
They could
HR
have
found it, they
maybe.
probably could have made it work.
Right,
But
right,
because a competitor said,
Mhm.
let me tap you in the shoulder.
Right.
But that's shady of them. But I guess competition is competition. But shame on whoever brought this up, because I mean she's doing makeup and hair on TikTok, and now you got this lady who spent all these years learning and going to school and paying all this money for a law degree, and now,
Well,
you
maybe
know,
her, yeah, maybe her passion now she can take it full swing. But
yeah,
again, that goes back to what I said before earlier in the show. You are a number at these companies,
yep,
and to believe that your all your hard work and all your dedication and all the clients that you brought in and all the cases that you've won and all the business you've brought in and all the volume and home sales and
yep,
revenue, you think that's going to help you when it comes down to the company saying we need to get her out of here, or this
yeah,
person, we got numbers to meet? None of that stuff
nope,
matters at all. So go into these companies knowing that at any time they will kick you out. So, like you
yeah,
said, stay ready so you ain't got to get ready.
absolutely. That is going to wrap up for the culture this week. Let's head on over to the hookup for our tech tip of the week.
All right. So this week, if you, and I hate them, when I'm doing an app, like I'm in an app doing something, every so often they tap me on the shoulder, like, hey, would you mind leaving us a review, some stars or whatever? And I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that right now. They'll kind of disguise it. Like they'll
Mm-hmm.
say, do you love using this app so far? Do you
Mm-hmm.
love it? And you'd be like, all right, yeah, I love it. Heart. And then it automatically take you to the app store where they want you
Even
to leave a
more
review.
stuff.
Right, right. I thought I was just liking it. You asked me, did I like it? I told you I liked it. Now I got to do all this other stuff, right? So if that's just
Right.
bothering you, there's a trick on how to prevent these in-app pop-ups, review pop-ups from appearing. And basically what you do, go to iPhone settings or iPad or whatever, go to settings, app store, go to in-app ratings and reviews. You can actually turn that on or off. Now, if you like leaving reviews, you want to support the app, which I'll be honest, I should do that a little bit more to show these app developers some love. But sometimes it can get too bothersome. You can actually toggle that off to where you won't be reminded or notified to do an in-app review. So that is my tip for the week. If you want to turn off in-app review pop-ups from appearing, you can actually go into the settings and turn that off.
Nice. Govern yourselves accordingly, ladies and gentlemen, if this applies to you. That is going to wrap up the show this week. We want to definitely thank you for tuning in for another episode of the snobOS Show. Brother Tech, where can people find you?
Sure, you can find me on the internet at Brother Tech, is BrothaTech. And also, I was on DTNS earlier this week
Nice.
talking about, what do we talk about? We talked about NVIDIA. They were balling out of control this week. We talked about electric bikes. We talked about all kinds of things. So definitely go to DTNS, the Daily Tech News Show. Check me out this week and let me know if you liked it.
Cool. And you can find me on all of the social media streets at Tech Savvy Diva. Again, to connect, comment, share, and support our show, you can head on over to snoboscast.com to get all of the details. That's going to wrap it up for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one, everybody.
Peace.